to Rio de Janeiro. No doubt about it, round 5 of the FedEx Championship will dance to a samba beat as the teams have journeyed south to Rio de Janeiro for the kart Rio 400. I'm Bob Varsha. Let's get you up to speed. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Bob, certainly one of the key stories this race weekend centers around the man who's won the pole position, Dario Franchitti. His first pole for Team Cool Green, his new team this year, and at track record speed, just over 172 miles per hour. But you can't even blink because it is so tight on this starting grid. Right next to him, just a tick of the watches away, is Alex Zanardi, just now walking over to his machine, getting ready to strap in. Zanardi has been on the podium in 9 of the last 11 events this year. Behind the Italian front row, all kinds of young Brazilians led by Tony Kanaan, Gilles de Ferran, Christian Fittipaldi. Only a tenth of a second separates them, and they're right behind. In fact, only 1 second separates the top 15 on the grid, and that sets the stage for what could well be a memorable race ending like we saw here 1 year ago. The principals in the late race drama were Bobby Rahal and Paul Tracy. Desperate efforts to conserve fuel by Rahal and his crew proved to be futile, and with less than 3 miles to go, Rahal was forced to the pits, and Tracy snatched away the lead. After leading over 100 laps, Rahal's bid for his first win in 5 years had evaporated, leaving Tracy and his team to celebrate a second consecutive triumph in what would prove to be a 3-race victory streak. For Rahal and his crew, it was certainly memorable, but also heartbreaking.
And wouldn't you know that Bobby Rahal and Paul Tracy are gridded right next to each other for this year, but in row number 5. Now, they had an opportunity to win this race last year because they were on a 2-stop strategy. Now, there's plenty of fuel in the fuel tanks to make the distance, but the teams say if you want to stop twice this year, instead of 3 times, you will have to have at least 40 laps of yellow, and you'll have to conserve fuel along the way. Now, the top 4 qualifiers for today are all powered by Honda. Now, they use very high RPM in qualifying to get that done. If this turns into a race to where you're going to need to save fuel, they're going to have to turn down the RPM, and that will tend to level the playing field between the engine manufacturers. But any way you slice it, today this race certainly could be won or lost by what you decide here on pit road. Bob?
All right, thank you, Jan. Another factor in our race will be the nature of this track. Despite heroic efforts to clean it, it is very dirty, and throughout the weekend, that has made the struggle to find grip very difficult indeed. The Sandy Samba began on Friday when last year's winner Paul Tracy tagged the inside guardrail in turn 4. For the second straight race, Andre Ribeiro, a former winner of this race, backed his Penske into the concrete. Former series champion Jimmy Vasser had a big spin off what was rapidly becoming Calamity Corner. And last year's pole sitter Mauricio Gugelmin suffered the effects of squeezing the power on too quickly in 4. The action continued on Saturday in qualifying. Max Pappas understeered into the concrete and performed a wheelie for the crowd on hand. Richie Hearn managed to keep his car off the wall, but brought that crowd to its feet with this pirouette to the infield grass. Al Unser Jr. tore the rear wing off of his Penske in qualifying, and Greg Moore had an identical spin. The car was undamaged, but his tires were toast. So needless to say, we have the makings of a very interesting race today. Hello, everybody. Let's take this opportunity to welcome you to Rio de Janeiro. I'm Bob Varsha, along with kart champion Danny Sullivan, wishing all the moms out there a very happy Mother's Day. Now, Danny, sophisticated race fans are home saying, well, isn't the rule that the drivers have to start the tires they qualified on? We really squared some off yesterday. What will they do?
Well, that is the rule, but in the interest of competition and safety, CART allows them to take some tires from their allotment. So they'll put the same specification tires on, but they'll just take a set that they've already used in practice.
Now, this is perhaps the most unique racetrack we run on all year long. How do you figure the race will set up?
Well, this is an oval track, but it's the closest thing to a road course that we have. We have 2 long straightaways with 2 corners at each end that is heavy under braking, a lot of downshifting. They go down to as low as 3rd gear, then hard on the gas, a drag race to the next corner. We're going to see a lot of exciting racing today.
No question about it. Our story is about to unfold. The cars are on the track, warming tires and engines. We'll be back to turn them loose in just a moment. Right now, we want to send you back to Robin Roberts in our ABC Wide World of Sports studio in New York.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. I'm still trying to figure out, how do I get those assignments to Rio like that? We'll get back to Rio de Janeiro in just a moment. First of all, Game 4 between the Knicks and the Pacers. Only a day rest after what happened yesterday in Madison Square Garden. This game was even better. As we take a look, it would go down to the final seconds in regulation. Reggie Miller comes up with it, knocks down to 3 to tie the game at 102 all. But then Allen Houston has a chance to win it in regulation for the Knicks, but comes up short. So we go to overtime. And in OT, all Pacers. Rick Smits, the turnaround over Ewing. Reggie Miller, had it going on from three-point range especially. And the Pacers go on for the 118 to 107 win in OT. They now lead the series 3-1. Game 5 Wednesday at Market Square Arena. The Pacers can wrap it up with a win. Ewing had 17 points and 8 rebounds. As for Reggie Miller and Allen Houston, how those two shooting guards compare, well, that was all Reggie Miller, doubling the count on Houston, 38 to 19. And look what he was able to do from three-point range, 5 of 13, only missed 1 free throw. And again, the Pacers can wrap it up with a win at home Wednesday at Market Square Arena. It is back to beautiful Rio de Janeiro for the CART Rio 400. Stay with us, everyone.
Welcome back to the CART Rio 400 in Rio de Janeiro. We're just moments away from the green flag. Here's the starting field for today's race. On the pole for the second time in his career, but the first on an oval, Scotsman Dario Franchitti. If he can win, he'll pick up a record $180,000 bonus from Marlboro. He'll start alongside Alex Zanardi, the winner in Long Beach, California earlier this season. On row 2 will be Tony Kanaan, the rookie points leader, the quickest of 7 Brazilians in the field. He starts next to countryman Gil de Ferran. On row 3, Christian Fittipaldi, nephew of the great Emerson Fittipaldi, for whom this track is named, and Brian Herta. On row 4 will be Greg Moore, the championship leader for the first time in his career. He'll be next to Michael Andretti. On row 5 will be the 2 protagonists in last year's great finish, Paul Tracy and Bobby Rahal. On row 6, Helio Castroneves celebrates his 23rd birthday in a race car on home soil for the first time in many years. He'll be next to Mexican Adrian Fernandez, the winner in Japan. On row 7, Jimmy Vasser, second quick in the morning warm-up and coming off a win 2 weeks ago in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. He's next to Walter Salas, the only Rio native among the drivers in the field. Row 8 will be Scott Pruitt and Andre Ribeiro, the 96 winner. On row 9, Patrick Carpentier and Mark Blundell. On row 10 will be Arndt Meyer of Germany, once again in the only Lola chassis in the field, next to Max Pappas from Italy. On row 11 will be Mauricio Gugelmin, who was just cleared to enter this race this past week after his big crash at Nazareth. He'll be next to rookie J.J. Leto. On row 12 will be the Dan Gurney All-American Racers teammates, P.J. Jones and Alex Barron. Row 13, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Hiro Matsushita of Japan in the last race of his 9-year kart career. And on row 14, victims of accidents and spins in qualifying, Al Unser Jr. and Richie Hearn. Now here are the stories we'll be following as the day goes on. Pit strategy, we talked about it coming into this point. Fuel and tires, both very important. The search for grip, this place is diabolically slippery. Gaining that magic balance could make the difference. And the balance of power, which engine appears to have the advantage as we come into this 5th round of the 1998 championship. Our race analysis, the track, 1.864 miles around. It's called an oval, but it's almost trapezoidal in shape. 133 laps of racing schedule. The defending race winner, Paul Tracy, in a dynamite finish 1 year ago, and will look for the pit window to open between laps 35 and 43. Now let's take a look at the way this track sets up. Danny Sullivan.
Well, as you can see, turns 1 and turns 4, those are the critical points. They got to come off of those very good. Turns 2 and turns 3 aren't even corners. They go through there flat out. Doesn't matter where they are. The critical points in practice have been the exits of turn 1 and turn 4, and of course the passing is going into those corners.
They reach over 200 miles an hour on the front straightaway. You ride with Scott Pruitt starting in the number 15 position. As they begin to go 2 by 2, Bobby Rahal will start in the number 10 spot. And we'll have a number of other onboard cameras in the field as the Pontiac Grand Prix pace car draws away. A very interesting start here at Rio, Danny. They have a long, straight run to the green flag off of turn 4.
They want to build up speed as they go through turn 4, come out of there as smooth as they can, but building up speed down this front straightaway. They have a long way to the starter stand. Jim Swintal said he'll give the starter about 100 yards from the flag stand.
There is Jim Swintal, the flag man for CART.
Now see, they're building up speed here, but they cannot pass anybody in that row or the row in front of them until they get to the start-finish.
A year ago, we had a big spin coming down to the green flag here at Rio, but it looks like a clean start, and the cars are 4 and 5 wide as they head for 1. Look at Tony Kanaan, the rookie, come up to take the lead in 1.
And that outside is very slippery there. They'll be tiptoeing out there, not trying to put the power down too hard, too fast.
Tony Kanaan with the bright yellow nose on his Honda Reynard, battling with Alex Zanardi in the red car, side by side down the backstretch. They're still 2 by 2. And now Zanardi moves into the lead. Here comes heavy braking for turn 4. Gilles de Ferran slides by Kanaan, and Franchitti is on the charge.
If they get that little bit outside, they can't pick up the throttle as quick as they want to. Look at this, down the front straightaway. Christian Fittipaldi in the black car on the right of your screen with the yellow helmet.
You ride with Michael Andretti, watching them 3 wide in front of him. Oh, you don't want to be on the outside in 1.
See how much ground he loses right there? The green and white car just shot up the inside. There's not as much grip on the outside.
So it is Zanardi, de Ferran, then Kanaan and Franchitti, and look at this battling going on for 4th place.
And that's wheel to wheel at a couple 100 miles an hour. That's Paul Tracy in the green and white cool car that just took the pass on Michael Andretti.
You ride with Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy just ahead of him, and ahead of Tracy is Christian Fittipaldi, Michael's Kmart, Haviland, Newman Haas teammate.
And he's coming right back. Now see on this one, the green and white cool car, he's on the outside, but he just pinches Michael down to the inside so he can stay with some grip.
On the backstretch, repaved during the off-season. They've taken out some of the big undulations, but it's still fairly washboard-like back there.
And that's what you see, everybody swinging out there like a snake. They're trying to stay away from the rough spots on the back straightaway.
Nose to tail off of turn 1 at better than 100 miles an hour, up through the gearbox, 3 gears to 205 miles an hour, wheel to wheel. Tracy on the left, Andretti on the right.
Well, Michael's seen that trick once. He's not going to be forced down onto that apron a second time. You saw him hold his line there.
Greg Moore is coming up behind Paul Tracy now.
But what happens there is he has to back out of it. He can't pick up the throttle. Greg Moore gets a run off of there because he has better grip on the inside.
Greg Moore, at 23 years of age, in the PPG Cup Championship points lead for the first time in his career. Once again, right up on Tracy's gearbox on the long, long front straightaway here in Rio.
Greg Moore had seen that trick in front of him before. He wasn't having any of it either. Now, I admire Paul Tracy because what he's trying to do is make a little bit of a groove out there on the outside as this race goes on, that he can get a little bit more grip because they're going to have to go too wide through there, especially when they get into slower cars.
As they begin to string out, let's set the running order all the way to the back. Alex Zanardi, Gilles de Ferran, Tony Kanaan, Dario Franchitti, Christian Fittipaldi, then Michael Andretti in 6th, Paul Tracy, Greg Moore, Brian Herta, and Bobby Rahal round out the top 10. Then Adrian Fernandez, Jimmy Vasser, Helio Castroneves, who right now is being attacked by the silver car of Scott Pruitt. He loses that spot. Pruitt up into 13th, Castroneves back to 14th, then Walter Salas in 15th, Mark Blundell and Patrick Carpentier follow him. Then Art Meyer, Mauricio Guzman, Richie Hearn, Michel Jourdain Jr., Andre Ribeiro, Al Unser Jr. in 23rd, P.J. Jones, Alex Barron, J.J. Leto, who's going backwards in the field, Max Pappas, and Hiro Matsushita. Good look there at Adrian Fernandez in the green and orange Tecate Quaker State car. He was the points leader coming into our most recent round at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. But on a cold Monday morning after a Sunday rainout, he hit the wall on lap 1 and scored 0.
Bob, even though cars are 950 horsepower. These guys are driving them like they did in their the junior formulas when they were coming up. Everybody's slipstreaming, drafting, hoping the guy in front of them makes a mistake. They're so close.
Checking the intervals, and Alex Zanardi has a big one over Gilles de Ferran, and then an even larger gap, nearly 2 full seconds, to Tony Kanaan.
I like the fact that you call that a big gap. I'm sure that Alex Zanardi doesn't think so.
Let's get down to the pit lane and Gary Gerald.
Bob, a quick note on 2 of those running up front. First, Dario Franchitti. He has put a little more wing in the car. They want a little bit more downforce through the corners where everybody was having a problem in qualifying yesterday. And with track temperatures now of 120 degrees, ambient temperature in the mid-80, they have given up some of the drag, slower speed in the straightaway to be smooth in the corner. Consequently, early, it seems to have hurt him. Also, Gilles de Ferran in his backup car after the morning warm-up, they had a problem with the turbocharger. They blew a stone through there. They didn't know if it damaged the engine. They went to the backup car. It obviously is performing very well.
Well, right now, the man with the good performing car is Alex Zanardi, looking to become the first 2-time winner in this young FedEx Championship season. We'll be back with more in a moment.
ABC Sports presentation of the Rio 400, brought to you by Firestone, America's tire since 1900. Now FedEx delivers on Sunday because the world works 7 days a week. And Ford, maker of vehicles that are built to last.
Back on a cloudless, warm day in Rio de Janeiro at the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway. The kart Rio 400 coming around to complete lap 11. And the race leader at the end of 11 laps, as you watch Scott Pruitt head for the pit lane to serve time.
Bob, what he's doing a drive-through because he passed somebody before the start-finish line. Not in his row. He moved in front of the car in the row in front of him, and so they do a drive-through. So does Big Mo. He has to do the same thing. They come into the pits down to 60 miles an hour, and that's their penalty.
And there is Mauricio Gugelmin also coming back out. Normally, they would use that inside lane as the warm-up lane, but this year, kart officials decided that they would funnel the cars back onto the racetrack on the wide front straightaway. Oh, a big twitch from Kanaan's car.
And look who went through. It was Dario Franchitti. See what I mean? They need a mistake to get by because his cars are so equal. Just a little bobble like that, and he loses a spot. And look how quickly everybody's behind him as well.
So Kanaan drops out of 3rd spot. Give it to Franchitti. Up front, the car to the left of your screen is Alex Zanardi, the race leader. Gilles de Ferran is definitely closing in. Alex Zanardi has now completed 13 laps in the lead and eclipsed 1,000 career laps in the lead in kart competition, faster than any driver in history, with one exception, Bobby Unser. Target Chip Ganassi Racing Team definitely has hit on a combination, picked up their first win on a short oval 2 weeks ago in Nazareth, and they did it in style, taking 1-2.
But I tell you what, Alex is not drawing away from Gilles de Ferran, and that is a credit to them. That's what their backup car is for. Had a problem, jumped into his backup car, and he's right there.
In fact, de Ferran in the Valvoline car for Walker Racing has been in that backup car for much of the weekend. They made sure that the backup was ready to race if they needed it. Turns out they did.
Let's not also forget he set an unofficial track record. He couldn't match it in qualifying, but he had the fastest time ever turned around here in one of these cars.
Well over 172 miles an hour in average speed. And when you consider they get down around 100 in these slow corners, 1 and 4, you know they are flying the rest of the way around. Jan Vikas in the pits.
Well, you saw Tony Kanaan get loose out there. I checked with Steve Horn. He said the car is getting loose, which we could see, obviously. But he said a lot of people are complaining about their cars being loose so far as the track gets hotter. But Tony Kanaan is running a bigger stagger than Dario Franchitti. That traditionally will make the car a little bit more loose. That could cause problems for any of the 7 guys on Firestone that are running the bigger stagger. Bob?
Thanks, Jan. You ride with Michael Andretti in 6th place. Ahead of him is his teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, and ahead of him, Tony Kanaan, who dropped back to 4th with that wiggle. Snaking down the backstretch.
Of course, they're trying to dodge those bumps. It's dirty and they're bumpy on the inside there, so it's just easier for them to move out, save the bottom of the car, and not rattle them too much.
Now Michael Andretti, middle car in the line there, is coming under fire from Greg Moore in the blue machine for Jerry Forsythe's team, and just behind Moore is Paul Tracy. It's interesting to hear the drivers talk about this racetrack as a roval, a combined road course and an oval. Some of them using block differentials, some of them using the independent rears.
I think we should explain to the folks at home, too, when we're talking about the grip situation and how difficult that is. What they're trying to do with these long straightaways is run as little wing as possible, make that car as fast as it can go through the air. But the problem is when you take that wing out, of course, you'll lose grip, downforce in the corners, so you can't corner as fast. So there's a fine balance there.
Right out by the concrete wall, you see Michael Andretti taking a gear. He'll shift again on the backstretch here to get into top gear.
Actually, he'll shift quite a few times because they drop down to as low as third gear there. So they go up through third, fourth, fifth, sixth gear.
Mauricio Gugelmin, the car that just dropped out the bottom of your screen, is the race leaders, Alex Zanardi, and the ever closer Gilles de Ferran draw up behind to put him a lap down. Alex Zanardi and his wife Daniela let word out this weekend they're expecting their first child in September. So congratulations to them.
And I believe Alex wants to clinch the championship by August so he can take the rest of the time off and be with his wife.
Yeah, I'll bet Chip Ganassi's going to listen to a lot of that argument.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. And I don't think Alex is serious about it.
As you see, Zanardi has had good success here. A pair of fourth-place finishes, but last year he came from 26th place all the way to fourth. Oh, Max Pappas in the MCI car is done. Our first retirement of the day. There is de Ferran, who has made it old home week here in Brazil. He went to his family home in Sao Paulo.
Seemed like he closed up a little bit under braking. He wants to keep that pressure on Alex Zanardi. Let's not forget they're both Reynards, both Hondas. The difference is Alex has Firestones and Gilles is on Goodyears.
And they have slower traffic up ahead, so de Ferran may be trying to work his way in position to take advantage of it. Although there is probably nobody in the series who works traffic quite like Alex Zanardi does.
And what's happening, you saw right there, the bright orange car beside Alex at the top left of your screen, right in front of Alex Zanardi. The big Mo right there. He's trying to work the car in front of him as well, one of Dan Gurney's cars.
It's young Alex Barron with the yellow helmet. Eagle painted on the nose of the car. Now Zanardi goes down the inside to lap Gugelmin, and he'll get Barron before they get to turn one. Two slower cars between race leader Alex Zanardi and the second place machine of Gilles de Ferran. We'll take a break and return with more of the CART Rio 400 after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Watching auto racing on ABC Sports.
Back at the CART Rio 400, Bob Barsha, Danny Sullivan with you. There are the top six in order from leader Alex Zanardi back to sixth place Michael Andretti. Zanardi and Gilles de Ferran in second place working traffic right now. There's Michael Andretti with Greg Moore, the seventh place car, all over his gearbox. Word from the infield is a broken engine has taken Max Pappas out of the race, our first retirement. The order is Zanardi, de Ferran, Franchitti, Tony Kanaan, the rookie leader, Christian Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti, and Greg Moore right there in your picture. Then Paul Tracy, Brian Herta, and Bobby Rahal, the top 10, followed by Adrian Fernandez, Jimmy Vasser, Elio Castroneves, and Walter Salas. And here comes Christian Fittipaldi trying to pass his Brazilian countryman, Tony Kanaan.
And Michael right behind him trying to take advantage of it as well. I would say Tony Kanaan's having a little bit of a handling problem, which was reported.
A little too much downforce in the car.
And if it's a little too loose, that'll cause him slow speed off of the corner, and it'll drop him back. Greg Moore now going by in the bright blue car there to the right of your screen. Let's not forget Michael Andretti has never finished this race down here in the top 20 in either times. Greg Moore was leading and had an engine broke and finished second last year.
Working lap number 25 of 133. It has been all green flag to this point. The race is moving along at a furious pace, over 166 miles an hour in average speed, just 6 miles an hour slower than Dario Franchitti's pole lap. Back to the point, Zanardi and DeFerrin.
Well, Alex got a little bit of an advantage during that pass, but it looks like Gilles DeFerrin has closed right back up on him again. That's the problem with traffic. When you're the leader, sometimes you have the advantage in traffic, and sometimes you lose a big advantage. You can't ever predict it. Look at Gilles taking a look down the inside, just letting him know that he's there, trying to force a mistake.
Let's learn more on Alex Zanardi's situation. Gary Gerald.
About 10 or 11 laps from the predicted first pit stop, Bob, Alex Zanardi apparently wants to reduce some of the drag on the straightaway. He's told the crew that he wants to go down on the front wing, and I think, Danny, you can probably assess that situation. You were talking about how you sacrifice either on the straightaway or in the corner. What do you think Zanardi's trying to do in this instance?
Well, two things. If he's trying to take front downforce out, his car might also be a little bit loose, and he wants to get back a little of that grip, get a little push in the car, plus reduce a little bit of straight line speed. Or increase those straight line speeds, sorry. Reduce the drag on the front straight.
Alex Zanardi has finished third or better in 9 of his last 11 starts in the series. He has been good value for Chip Ganassi and the Target team. And he brought the crowd to its feet here in Rio when the drivers were introduced on the finished podium. He walked over and kissed the top step of the podium as if to say, this is where I plan to be. Now look at that gap. Absolutely bulletproof through the last 3 laps from first to second place. Back on board with Michael Andretti, chasing Christian Fittipaldi, his teammate for Newman Haas. There's P.J. Jones for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers and the Toyota-powered Reynard going out the bottom of your screen, about to be lapped by the bright yellow helmet of Christian Fittipaldi and then Michael Andretti. Under the bridge that provides access to the infield. Back on the front straightaway, Alex Zanardi, the bright red machine. Oh,
Tony Kanaan.
Has there been contact or just a fire at the back? Hard to tell.
That looks a lot more like a blown motor.
Now, he had an engine fire during one of the rounds of practice. I believe it was a turbo fire then.
See, he's getting out of there quickly. He's probably got a little fluid came rushing forward in there, and he can feel the heat.
We've had several engine fires this weekend. One for Richie Hearn that knocked out his primary car, and 2 now for Tony Kanaan. And for the first time today, we have a yellow flag from Jim Swintal. There's the race leader, Alex Zanardi, who'll be picked up by the Pontiac safety car, and we'll have a restart. Here's a replay.
Luckily, everybody was trying to move out there a little bit. He must have been going a little bit slower. Didn't happen right in front of him. That can sometimes cause an incident because the car slows so quickly.
Man, that looked like a pretty comprehensive meltdown. Some kind of fitting came loose. And Tony Kanaan's day that began with so much promise is now over. We'll be back. back at the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway in Rio de Janeiro as the kart Rio 400 is under yellow for the first time today. This is on lap 31 after a massive engine meltdown in the back of Tony Kanan's Reynard brought the race under caution. You see the safety car being driven this weekend by Terry McDonald-Cadieux from Canada, part of the PPG all-female pace car team. The pits will be open shortly. It is very close to the expected pit window.
And it looks like there comes our leader right down there. They're going to take advantage of this yellow.
Lead lap cars only this time around. There is Alex Zanardi. Gary Gerould awaits him.
And Bob, if there was any question about two-stop or three-stop strategy, this may have answered it. This will be at least a three-stop race. They have elected not to make any changes with the wing configuration they were talking about. They have made an adjustment on tire pressure. Everything routine. Oh, J.J. Leno slides in. Zanardi slides out. 13 seconds. Jan Beacon.
Scrambling going on down there in the pit lane.
And Michael Andretti actually ran over a tire that was in the pit lane, so I would imagine he'll have a penalty from that. The pit stops are so critical there when these cars are running this close and you can't pass anybody. If your pit crew can get you out of 2 spots in front of somebody else, you can make up a tremendous amount of ground.
Jan Beekes has a story from the pits.
Well, down on the other end of pit road on pit entry where Team Cool Green is pitted, they had 2 very quick stops for Paul Tracy and for Dario Franchitti. Dario Franchitti in 12.39 seconds, and I believe that Paul Tracy was a little bit faster, but he was not able to pick up that position. So good stops down here, no miscues, except for Richie Hearn stalling it on the exit. Much different than what we saw on pit out. Bob?
Thanks, Jan. Let's reset the order now after the lead lap cars have pitted. Alex Zanardi came back out in first place. Gilles de Ferran remains second, followed by Christian Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti, and Greg Moore. Here come the lapped cars in for their pit service, led by Arndt Meyer in the bright yellow Van Software Lola.
Now, a lot of folks at home might wonder why they put the first cars in, the lead cars in first, and then the lap cars in second. That's just to give everybody a clean pit stop and not take any racing advantage away from the leader.
Here's a look at just how tight and intense things got in the pits. This is Gilles de Ferran leaving Brian Herta on his right. I believe that's Dario Franchitti just ahead of him. That was close. And now let's take a look at Michael Andretti's pit stop.
Goes around his teammate that was on the left there. Now you won't see the tire, but watch when he goes out. It'll be on the right side. See, turn sharp, see the car jump up. He rode over his right front tire. The guy put it away, but Michael had to turn so sharp to get out.
And that was Dario Franchitti coming across his bow. I had that running order wrong. Our Omega timing system had not reset. It has now. The order is Alex Zanardi, Dario Franchitti, Michael Andretti, then Paul Tracy, Gilles de Ferran, who lost a lot of spots on that stop, Brian Herta, who gained a few, Christian Fittipaldi dropped all the way back to 7th, Bobby Rahal is now up to 8th from 10th, Adrian Fernandez is 9th, and Jimmy Vasser in 10th spot. Greg Moore all the way back in 11th. So pit service is now pretty much complete. Our first stop of at least 2 here at the kart Rio 400 with a bright sun beating down, a big crowd on hand, and a definite carnival atmosphere here at the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway. The drivers bringing tires back up to temperature in anticipation of what should be a very interesting restart. They always are here in Brazil. Stand by for more from the kart Rio 400. Stay in the fast lane online with Jack at the Track, Paul's Pit Stop, and go behind the scenes with Mike Roth's Diary. ABC Sports Online is on AOL, keyword ABC Sports. Bon dia, and welcome back to the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway in Rio de Janeiro. Let's get down to Gary Gerould in the pit lane before we go green.
Bob, you mentioned a problem for Gilles de Ferran. He lost positions on the pit stop. Derek Walker, was there a problem or a malfunction with the fueling engagement there?
Yeah, the main fueling nozzle had a problem. The safety valve shut off, so it stopped the flow of the fuel. We made a change to it, but it's, it seems okay now, but it held us up in the pits.
Is this one of these situations where you don't get to test it until you're under race conditions?
Well, we used to be able to do wet stops in practice, and now we're not allowed to do that anymore for safety reasons. So it means until we get into the race, it's the only time we can try it, unfortunately. We need to do something else to safeguard that happening again.
He's smiling, but I think he's greatly frustrated.
You can bet on that. We're preparing for the race start. Here's a look at how everybody fared. Alex Zanardi, as we knew, in and out in first place. Dario Franchitti went from 8th to 2nd on that stop. Michael Andretti from 4th to 3rd. More on him in a moment. Paul Tracy from 9th all the way up to 4th. And Gilles de Ferran from 2nd back to 5th due to the problem we just reported on. Now, we have some penalties during that pit stop. As you pointed out, Danny, Michael hit a tire. We also have a report that Richie Hearn in the Della Penna Motorsports Budweiser car clipped a crewman. So when we go green, they'll be called in.
Yes, what they do is they have to do it under a green. They did it at a yellow, it wouldn't be much of a penalty. They do a green, they'll do a drive-through. The crewman, by the way, is fine, but they get real upset when you run over things in the pit lane, whether it's a hose, a tire, and particularly a crew member.
The flag waves again, and Michael Andretti is already on a charge because he knows he's going to be visiting the pit shortly. We are green once again on lap 37 here in Rio. Now, is it me, or does it look like everybody is taking a little time to get up to speed here on those fresh tires?
Well, they're going to be a little cautious because the tires aren't up to temperature. You can't do as much as you'd like behind the pace car, and they just want them to be careful on those restarts not to overdo it.
Paul Tracy attacks his teammate Dario Franchitti in the Team Cool green cars. Tracy moves up to 3rd, dropping Franchitti to 4th. But there's Michael Andretti heading for the pits. So the order will be Zanardi, Tracy, Franchitti, de Ferran. And de Ferran goes by Franchitti as quickly as that. So de Ferran now up into 3rd place. Wife Angela is here this weekend. The kids are with the grandparents at Sao Paulo. And Gilles de Ferran is enjoying being back home in Brazil. Richie Hearn has also done his drive-through and left the pits at top speed. Caught Bobby Rahal in that mix. He runs in 7th right now in his final visit to the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway. 2 cars are out of the race, Max Pappas and Tony Kanaan. Kanaan is standing by with Jan Vikas.
And of course, at the start of the race, that was a fantastic start for you. Your feelings about taking the lead there in the first turn there in your home country?
Well, it was a wonderful. I mean, it was for a very short time. Alex got me later, but, well, I think I did my part of the job. Unfortunately, that's the race, and sometimes these bad things happen. Well, I really don't know what's happened. I think it was the gearbox again. It's a shame because I really wanted to do very good here for all my people, but, well, we're going to do it next year. We are there. I mean, we have the car. We started in the top 3. So let's see what's going to happen in San Luis.
Okay, let's get back upstairs. Thanks.
Into the tire wall.
And that is one of the cool cars there, and it looks like possibly is
Walter
that Walter
Salas,
Salas,
I believe, yes.
in the blue car.
Let's take another look. Tracy and
No,
de
that's
Ferran
Gilles
right
de
there.
Ferran going down the inside
Oh.
of Paul Tracy. That's Gilles de Ferran.
Front to rear contact, and they slide up this very slippery turn 1 into that state-of-the-art tire wall. It's wrapped with a belt of rubber, like a conveyor belt. It was introduced here last year. The kart safety team is on the site.
That tire wall is state-of-the-art. If that had been a concrete wall, this would have been a much more severe accident. It absorbed all the energy, and it stayed intact right there. They'll just be able to pull those cars back out. That big belt wrapped around those tires will keep everything intact.
Well, whenever you see rubber-to-rubber contact in open-wheeled cars, that was a big impact, even with that energy-absorbing wall. Another look. DeFerrin coming down the inside. Tracy moves over on the line.
Paul closes the door. Gilles cannot get out of the way at that stage.
And as you see,
that's a tough one.
All locked up as they hit the tire wall. There's Paul Tracy. He is obviously out and appears to be okay. Other than the enormous frustration he is feeling. It's been a rocky start for arguably the quickest man on one lap in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Results have been hard to come by in 5 races this year. And there's Gilles DeFerrin. More good news. We'll be back to Rio de Janeiro after this. Saturday at 1 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific on ABC Sports. We begin our coverage of the Indianapolis 500 time trials. Defending champion Ari Lyondike and 96 winner Buddy Lazier gear up to qualify for race day. Find out who will sit atop the pole when they wave the green flag Saturday on ABC Sports. The field is being shown. 1 lap to go to the green flag. Paul Tracy has made his way back to the pit lane from the accident scene. He's with Gary Gerald.
Making the long walk back is Paul Tracy. And Paul, when you tangle up with a Brazilian, this crowd gets a little angry, and they're very boisterous, to say the least.
The crowd's pretty rough here. It's disappointing for the cool team. The car was perfect. I was just pacing myself, trying to get the mileage that I wanted, and Gilles I came down the inside, but there was no way to get by, and just drove into the side of me. So.
Did you ever see him? Did you know he was there down on the inside?
Well, I knew he was behind me, but I didn't think he was close enough to make a move. And he hit my back wheel going in, and then we hit again in the middle of the turn. So it's disappointing, but it's a tough race down here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Gary. Race leader Alex Zanardi brings him down to the flag. In single file, Zanardi with a good jump at the start over Paul Tracy's teammate Dario Franchitti. Brian Herta in the black and white shell car runs in third, followed by Christian Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, Adrian Fernandez, Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, Elio Castroneves, and Patrick Carpentier. Alonso Jr. runs in 11th place. He started 27th. And this racetrack seems to agree with Little Al. He finished 7th here a year ago, and the year before that, he was 2nd. Bright yellow helmet of Christian Fittipaldi. And that black car behind Brian Herta. Each man looking for his first career victory in the FedEx Championship Series. For Christian Fittipaldi, this marks his return to Brazil. He did not race here last year after his heavy accident on the streets of Surfers Paradise, Australia, that left him with a broken leg.
And I'm sure Christian wouldn't mind having his first win right here at home.
Bobby Rahal. Adrian Fernandez just behind, and then the blue car of Greg Moore. Then Vasser. This is Castroneves in the Alumax machine for Tony Bettenhausen's team. They've had a lot of hard luck lately. Castroneves runs second to his countryman Tony Kanaan in the Rookie of the Year running for the Jim Truman Trophy. And with Kanaan already out of this race, Castroneves can make up some serious ground in that championship. Moore is Jimmy Vasser, the winner 2 weeks ago in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. There is Rahal in the white Miller Lite car. Fernandez looking down inside turn 1.
Those cars, of course, being very equal. Both Reynards, Ford, Firestone. So they're about as equal as you're going to get.
You ride with the man who dominated this race a year ago, leading over 100 of the 133 laps, while his crew crunched the numbers in the pits, trying to make it on 2 stops and he came up about a gallon short. What heartbreak. If you were with us last year, there were tears in the pits. Bobby Rahal tries to end a victory drought that goes all the way back to 1992 in this, his final season. There you see his progress through the field as we work lap number 51 of 133.
It all looks so calm in there. He's just driving along, taking a Sunday drive, making a nice, easy shift. Believe me, it's not that easy. Very physical these cars are to drive. A lot of loads going through the body.
And it is a very warm day. In these cars, wrapped in a cocoon of fire retardant fabric, 4 and 5 layers thick. The balaclava, the helmet, the gloves. One thing Bobby Rahal is not using this year that he has in years past are his eyeglasses. He had laser surgery during the off-season, took 17 seconds on each eye. Both he and his teammate Brian Herta had it, and they said, worked like a miracle.
I wonder if Brian has to do everything that Bobby does.
Well, you'd certainly think so, judging from their times on the racetrack. They have been in lockstep all season long, qualifying next to each other on the front row for our race in Long Beach, California, round 3 of the season. And they have been just that way here in Rio, within a 10th, if not a 100th of a second of one another. Rahal goes wide. Fernandez looks down the inside again. And now Greg Moore pulls up behind Fernandez as Helio Castroneves heads for the pits. And this is a surprise. Fuel and tires. And while the battle continues between Rahal, Fernandez, and Moore, with Jimmy Vasser in that red machine looking on from 8th place. Let's get more on Herta's situation from Jan Vikas.
Well, Brian Herta has been making a move, and the only change that they made on the previous stop, Bob, was they lowered the air pressure in all 4 of the tires because they're trying to pick up some more grip in the corners for Brian Herta. Obviously, that seems to be working. Helio Castroneves, who just came onto pit road, they're reporting he has a leak
a crash.
Some kind.
Excuse me, Jan. We have a crash. The young Mexican Michel Jourdain Jr. driving a 97 Reynard chassis for Peyton Coyne Racing. Dale Coyne told me they like the way the 97 car works around this racetrack better than the 98, and he has had a big one. Rear wing is gone, left rear wheel askew, and Jourdain climbs out. Now, when we talk about one car while we're watching another, that's because our pictures are coming to us from Brazilian SBT television. This is down in turn 1. Once again, there is that tire wall just beyond Jourdain's wreckage. Stacks of tires, individually wrapped like the coil springs in a mattress, and then wrapped again with that heavy industrial rubberized Goodyear belt. See if we could pick up what happened. No, he's already down and into that tire wall.
It looks to me like he must have lost it under braking because you saw he caught the tire wall right at the beginning. So more than likely he lost the car under braking, spun it around, and luckily caught the front part of that tire wall.
So we are under caution for the 3rd time today. 15 laps under yellow thus far of the 55 completed. Once again, the Pontiac Grand Prix safety car gathers up the field. The pits will be open in a moment for the lead lap cars. We'll take a break and return for more of the CART Rio 400 after this message and a word from our ABC station.
ABC Sports presentation of the Rio 400. Brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that a Miller time can be anything you want as long as it feels good. The more than 1,900 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And Toyota, every day belongs to you. Make it count. Toyota, every day.
Welcome back to the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway. Does anyone else see a man reclining in that mountain range in the distance? Around here, they call him Enzo Ferrari. We're under caution. Let's get down to Gary Gerald.
Update on Helio Castroneves, Bob. Apparently a throttle sensor broke. They thought it was linkage in the gearbox. That was not the case, but he has been sidelined. Chip Ganassi here calling the shots for race leader Alex Zanardi. How satisfied are you? You made only minor changes on your first pit stop.
We had a good first stop, Gary, and we're going to be going green here any second. I got to run.
All right, he's ready to go. Jan?
Well, there was a quick stop down here for Dario Franchitti, who was in second place, 10.5 seconds. But let's ask the team owner, Barry Green, why stop now? You went from second to 15.
Well, we were just getting into our fuel window, and he's getting excellent mileage. He wanted to make a small adjustment to the car. He's really comfortable out there, so we think it's a good call. Let's wait and see.
Roger Penske has also brought both his cars in during that time as well.
All right, thank you, Jan. In case you couldn't hear it, both Penske cars for Al Unser Jr. and Andre Ribeiro pitted, fell back in the order. Unser Jr. runs in 16th place. And Andre Ribeiro in 21st. We are back under green on lap number 60 of 133. There's Brian Herta running in second place with Christian Fittipaldi just behind. And then 3-4 cars nose to tail. Rahal, Fernandez, Moore, Vassar, Patrick Carpentier just behind the 96 Series champion, Jimmy Vassar. Once again, Fernandez looks under Rahal, and wow, that time he almost got too far.
You could see that wiggle come out of his car when Fernandez had to apply more brakes there to get it slowed down because he saw Bobby coming across on him.
6 cars out.
He's going to try it on the back straightaway. He got enough run off of him, and he made a clean pass. Now can he hold it? Bobby might try to come back.
Moore comes up behind Rahal, so Fernandez moves to 4th.
And Moore's going down the inside. Bobby obviously lost momentum there. Greg Moore tucked back in. That's to get a little bit more draft out of the car to pull him down there. See, Bobby's strong.
Yeah. I was about to say they don't seem to be able to get it done down in 1 where they do in 4, but that time Moore made it work under braking. So the order is now Zanardi, Herta, a little confused. Fittipaldi is still in 3rd place, then Fernandez.
But on our screen, sorry, that's Jimmy Vassar trying to make a run right there. The red car just at the back of your screen behind Bobby Rahal.
There we go. There's Christian, and then Fernandez, then Greg Moore, then Bobby Rahal,
then Vassar,
Carpentier, J.J. Leto, a rookie from Finland, all the way up into 9th place for Carl Hogan's team. Slowly on the backstretch as Michael Andretti attacks. Remember, Andretti dropped all the way back to 24th on our timing screens with that penalty early on. He has worked his way up into 10th spot, having gotten around Scott Pruitt in the Silver Vistion car. Once again, drafting, slipstreaming down the front straightaway. Michael Andretti, who's been in position to win so many times this year, won the season opener at Homestead, then ran out of fuel at Motegi, a crash at Nazareth, the delaminated tire at Long Beach as you ride with Jimmy Vassar. There's a look at his progress through the field.
They're changing down gears. Tippy-toeing there, then squeezing on the power, coming on this long front straightaway. Goes back up through the gears, and then they'll heavy braking down at the other end, and they'll go down through the gears again. 3rd gear, squeeze on that power, right out to that wall. Now these corners, this is turn 2 right there, but it's nothing of a corner. They could go through there 3 or 4 abreast, a little bit of a back straightaway again, then another turn 3, again, wide open, 3 or 4 abreast, and then under braking, right there, you see everybody braking into turn 4 out onto the front straightaway.
Vassar, Patrick Carpentier, the blue car with the orange dot on the nose, and then Michael Andretti as Michael continues to climb the leaderboard. Let's get down to Gary Gerald in the pit lane.
Helio Castro Neves' 23rd birthday today, but I know this is a very frustrating end to this part of the day. Tell us what happened with the throttle linkage.
Yeah, unfortunately, the throttle linkage broke on the throttle, you know, so the car was running perfect until that. And so it's not giving full throttle on the straight. And thank God it's not stuck in the full throttle, because in a kind of track like that, it's pretty dangerous.
What is it like to get a chance to run the Champ cars for the first time here in front of all these fans and your countrymen?
I tell you, it's amazing. The guys, I mean, the Brazilian people, they support me a lot, especially on my birthday, and especially on Mother's Day here in Brazil. So I felt a little responsible, but now I just have to celebrate with everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob?
As you watch, Michael Andretti got around Patrick Carpentier to move into the 8th spot. He runs on the left of your screen. That's Carpentier on the right with Jimmy Vasser just behind. And now you're on board with Michael. With 37 victories to his credit, the winningest active driver in the series.
Bob, I don't want to correct you, but that was actually Scott Pruitt behind. Jimmy Vasser's a little bit in front, the one in front of Michael right now. Hey, there's so much going on out here, it's hard to keep up with everybody. It's just great racing at the moment.
I was thinking Scott Pruitt and said Jimmy Vasser, so now you understand my problem.
Let's ride along here with Michael, and you can listen to what he's doing. Coming through 4 there. Now on the brakes, see his hand over there on the right, down 2 clicks, 4th gear squeeze on the power, out on his straightaway, his hand will go down, up a gear, up another gear, 6th gear. Hard on the brakes, down through the gears. Squeeze it on, and now to the back straightaway. This is all wide open, up through the gears. That's turn 2.
I've been through there in a streetcar at about 90 miles an hour. I can't imagine what it's like at about 175.
Well, these guys, they really enjoy this track because it's such great racing. The track is not the most demanding except to find that balance.
As you see, Michael Andretti is drawing up on the car ahead of him. That is Jimmy Vasser with Bobby Rahal ahead of him.
Let's not forget, Michael got a penalty having run over that tire in the pit lane. He dropped a lap down into as low as 24th spot. He's coming all the way back up through the field.
This is the kind of track where you can make up a lot of ground. Last year's winner, Paul Tracy, spun en route to victory lane. Kind of reminds me of another racing driver I remember at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Gosh, a long time ago now. It is Zanardi, Herta, Fittipaldi, Fernandez, Moore, Rahal, Vasser, Andretti, Carpentier, and Pruitt. Your top 10. We'll be back with more from Rio de Janeiro. Easily the best-known attraction in the city of Rio de Janeiro is the statue of Christ the Redeemer that stands atop the mountain known as Corcovado, 2,330 feet up. The statue itself is 125 feet tall, weighs over 1,140 tons, and offers a great view of the city. Back at the kart Rio 400, the order is Alex Zanardi, Brian Herta, Christian Fittipaldi, Adrian Fernandez, Greg Moore, Bobby Rahal, Jimmy Vasser, Michael Andretti, Patrick Carpentier, and Scott Pruitt. There's Brian Herta going underneath one of the Penske cars. I believe that's Andre Ribeiro going very slowly down there in turn 1.
Bob, what he did there is he saw those guys were racing. He didn't want to interrupt them. That 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, he just moved over to the right, gave him the passing line. He was not going to interrupt the race as far down as he is.
Winner of this race just 2 short years ago. Andre Ribeiro runs well back in the field.
See another car right there.
That's Mark Blundell in the Motorola car for Pac West Racing.
And then what he's doing is he's giving them the racing line. I don't want to interrupt them. I'm not a threat here. I'll move over, give everybody that's dicing for that battle for second a good, clean line. Very professional by both of those drivers.
Blundell, too, has memories of this racetrack, but they're not happy ones. 2 years ago, he lost brakes and powered almost head-on into the wall at nearly 200 miles an hour and limped away with only a broken foot. It was a remarkable episode. He was back in the car before too very long. Now Christian Fittipaldi in the black Newman Haas machine. Kmart sponsorship under fire from Adrian Fernandez for 3rd place. 6 cars are out of the race. Max Pappas, Tony Kanaan, Gilles de Ferran, and Paul Tracy collided with one another. Michel Jourdain had a solo crash, and Helio Castroneves had mechanical difficulties. Brian Herta peels off from second place and heads for the pit lane. Jan Bikas is there.
And he locks up the brakes somewhat coming in, but he is able to hit the marks. These guys want to pull as close to the wall as they can because these fuel hoses are quite short. We're looking, no changes on the front wings. He's waiting for the fuel to get in. That's 12.86 seconds. Gary?
Waiting for Alex Zanardi, Jan. We just saw Michael Andretti, 2 pits to our left, slide by. Herta now exits going by us. And Chip Ganassi and his team continue to wait for the race leader. They were flawless on the first stop. We see the crew members waving, so we know he's on pit road. As we peer around over the wall, we see the nose of the defending champion for the race for the PPG Cup perfectly on the marks. They only changed tire pressures the first time. No wing changes. High revs. Now they disengage and they roll. We got him at 12.2 seconds clean for Zanardi.
And there are lots of green flag pit stops going on as Alex Zanardi comes back out on the racetrack with 56 laps to go.
Oh, this
Look
is
at this.
tight going out. Was that close?
Adrian Fernandez goes right by Greg Moore.
But right behind them was Christian Fittipaldi, so they're all bunched together. The interesting thing is, if they stay green the rest of the time, everybody's going to have to make one more stop, at least for a splash of fuel.
Christian Fittipaldi goes by, Alex Zanardi goes by Al Unser Jr. There's the view from above Christian's pit as Adrian Fernandez comes alongside. And just ahead there is Greg Moore, who had just exited the players' pits. His teammate Patrick Carpentier also pitted around the same time Michael Andretti did. So as the green flag continues, as you go on board with Scott Pruitt with 55 laps to go, Richie Hearn assumes the race lead over Dario Franchitti, Alex Zanardi, Al Unser Jr., Brian Herta, Adrian Fernandez, Greg Moore, Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vasser, and Patrick Carpentier. And Christian Fittipaldi is back in, Danny.
Yeah, something must have gone wrong there. They didn't get something right. He's got a problem. They wouldn't come back in that quickly unless there was a major problem there.
And you see the Newman Haas crew at work on the Kmart car. Fueler and the vent man wearing helmets identical to Christian's.
And I saw one of the crew members go, like, snap his hands like something broke down in there. They're looking down. That's where the fuel nozzle goes in the side there, but that's where the vent tube is, and also the air jack right in that area. They're not happy. Something is broken on that car. You don't stand around like that with if you can get your driver back out.
There is Richie Hearn, the new race leader in the Budweiser car. A Swift chassis with Ford power and Firestone tires, the only car in the series running that combination. But the other Swifts being run in the FedEx Championship are the house cars from Newman Haas for Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi. On board with Richie Hearn, former champion in the cool Toyota Atlantic Series. Another season with Della Penna Racing, with whom he took that Toyota Atlantic Championship. This is the third different chassis in as many years that Richie has driven in the series. Started with a Reynard 2 years ago, drove a Lola last year, and this year a Swift.
And he's had a rather fiery start to his time down here in Rio. He burned the car up in practice. Something happened in the fuel system and ignited the car on like his third or fourth lap out of the pits. They lost that car completely, jumped in his backup car, which he spun before he took the checkered for his qualifying. Had to start down here in dead last because he didn't take the flag.
No question, it's been an adventure. As the race leader, Richie Hearn, heads for the pits. Let's go to Jan Bikas.
Andre Albero has come down into the Penske pit, and they have now pushed that car all the way back to pit entrance. He lost all the gears in the car, so they are trying to fix it. So obviously, if they're trying to fix that car, they feel it might be a linkage-related problem as opposed to the gearbox itself blowing up. Gary Gerald?
Well, Jan Beekes for Christian Fittipaldi. They have come out of the car. There was a piece missing on the refueling apparatus that related to the vent right behind the Dragon's cockpit. They knew it was going to take at least 2 laps to fix it, so they said, that's it, we are done. Christian has just climbed out of the car. We'll get a word with him as soon as we possibly can.
That's something interesting. This has not been a good day in Brazil for the Brazilians. We only have one Brazilian left in the race, and that's Big Mo Guzman, who's down in 13th spot at the moment.
The new race leader is right there, Dario Franchitti, looking for his first career win. 50 laps remain in the kart Rio 400, and the pit stops continue. There's the top 12. We'll be back with more from Rio in a moment. Welcome back to the kart Rio 400. Bob Varsha along with Danny Sullivan. And let's update the standing of the Brazilians battling this racetrack in their home country. Walter Salles also remains in the race along with Mauricio Guzman. So of the 7 Brazilians that started the day, 2 are still in the running. Salles runs in 15th place, 2 places behind Guzman. Salles, of course, is a Carioca. That's a native of Rio de Janeiro, is called. Last year we had Roberto Moreno, also a Carioca, on the front row for this race. This year Salles carries the home colors. Let's watch Adrian Fernandez running in 5th place. Greg Moore just behind him in 6th. The leader is Dario Franchitti. Alex Zanardi runs 2nd. Then Al Unser Jr., Brian Herta, and that man, Alex Fernandez. Adrian Fernandez. I beg your pardon. What is it with me and names today? Down to the pit lane. Gary Gerald with Christian Fittipaldi.
Christian, you made such a marvelous run. What happened in the refueling process? Do you know what actually broke or malfunctioned?
I don't know. Something happened. The fuel just didn't go into the car. I had to do an extra lap, come back in, and apparently when I went out, I lost part of the fueling system, so I couldn't put any fuel in the car. The car was running good. The first pit stop wasn't a very good stop. I came in 4th, went out in 7th or 8th. I think we need to work hard on that. But apart from that, the team did a great job, and I want to thank the team, the sponsors, and come back next year and try to win this race next year.
It looked like you had a chance to win this race. Did you feel that, even though you had that bad first stop?
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially because the first stint was the worst for us. Was where I had a lot of tire wear, stint 2, and this last stint, we were getting more rubber in the track, and the car was coming a little bit my way. I'm not going to say it was going to be easy, but I was definitely trying, and I know that I was going to be up there right at the very end.
Thanks, Christian. Jan?
Well, here's another Brazilian that's having trouble today. Andre Ribeiro winning the first race here, but today it was gearbox. Is that what happened?
Yeah, we had a problem with the gearbox. Downshifting on the corners, I start losing the gears, so I was using only 5th and 6th, and then suddenly all gone. It's a shame. Next time, St. Louis is a good track for us.
That's what I was going to say. You have tested at St. Louis. Do you think the Penske chassis will be more competitive there?
Definitely, as we proved this in Miami, in Japan. It's the same type of track. We tested there. The car was competitive. We'll be back on the front.
Thanks, Andre. Thank you.
Now there is Al Unser Jr. running in 3rd place. He's been quiet all weekend long. In fact, he's been frustrated all weekend long. Then he had the spin and crash in qualifying, started at the back of the field and next to last place. And now here he is circulating in 3rd, about 7 seconds behind the 2nd place car of Alex Zanardi. Checking the pit windows for the top 3 cars, Franchitti, Zanardi, and Unser Jr. The green bands mean green flag racing, the yellow obviously under caution. Franchitti and Unser Jr. both getting close to what will be their final pit stops. The leader is in. Dario Franchitti with 44 laps still to go, so they have timed it right on the sill of that pit window.
What they're hoping for right now is that they do not have to stop again for anything. Yellow, green, if it goes green the rest of the time, they're okay. If a yellow comes out, they can still stay out. They don't have to do anything. He's not coming back into that pit.
Dario Franchitti, known as the donator to his mechanics and crewmen because he is such a poor card player. He's given up a big chunk of his salary in friendly hands. Alex Zanardi reassumes the lead. Alonso Jr. now second. Then Brian Herta to the left of your screen. Then the green and orange car of Adrian Fernandez and Greg Moore in fifth.
Let's not forget that Alonso Jr. is coming into his window of when he's going to have to stop. Alex Zanardi, of course, is pretty full. He's done about 10 laps, so he's got ways to go. This strategy, everybody's working different strategy. We're just going to have to wait till the last lap to see who's actually pays off.
Oh, and that is Walter Salas, who is down in turn one in that tire wall. That has been a very busy place today. Down to Jan Bikas.
Well, we thought that Dario Franchitti was coming in with a different strategy. Now the engine is turned off. Yellow flag on the racetrack, but Franchitti has some sort of engine-related problem. They are checking it as we speak, so we will not get to find out if that pit strategy of pitting early is going to play for our pole sitter.
Well, Jan, one of the pit strategy that this yellow is going to help is Alonso Jr. because he's going to be able to pit under a yellow situation. It'll be interesting to see whether Alex Zanardi does as well and tops it off so he can go the distance without having to make another stop.
Let's take another look now at what happened to Walter Salas. Ooh, a spin down in one.
Well, he tried to go in under one of Dan Gurney's cars there, and Dan Gurney's car was not giving way, pinched him down there. Rather than make contact, he tried to go a little bit more on the brakes and spun it around.
I believe that was P.J. Jones he went under. We are deep in the second half of the CART Rio 400. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
From ABC's Wide World of Sports studio in New York, here's Robin Roberts.
And we will get you back to the Rio 400 in just a moment. Alex Zanardi is in the lead, but the yellow flag is out. So we'll spend this time to get you up to speed on what else is happening in the wide world of sports, beginning with the NHL playoffs. A big week for the Sabres' Matthew Barnaby. A week ago, he had his first baby son, and today, his first career hat trick. That was a wraparound right there to put Buffalo on top of Montreal 4-3. Then in the third period, Barnaby, all alone, makes it 5-3. He would add another score for his first career hat trick, and the Sabres win by a final of 6-3, and they now lead in the series 2 games to none. Game 3 Tuesday in Montreal on ESPN2. As for the Blues and Red Wings, less than a minute left to go, and the Wings are leading 5-1. This will be the Blues' first loss in the postseason. Blues defenseman Chris Pronger was hit in the chest with a slap shot, taken off on a stretcher, taken to a local hospital. He was conscious when he was taken off the ice. No immediate report yet on his injury. Game 3 Tuesday in St. Louis on ESPN. To baseball now, the Atlanta Braves have homered in 21 consecutive games, a franchise mark, and they hope to keep that streak going today at the expense of the San Diego Padres, and boy, did they ever. In the fourth, Andres Galarraga keeps the streak alive, and then Andrew Jones gets in on the act. Then in the sixth, it's Javi Lopez, and in the seventh, Ryan Klesko. 4 Atlanta home runs against the Padres. They win by a final of 8-5. Lopez's homer is 5th in 10 games. San Diego has now lost 4 of its last 5 games. Well, where does this streak compare to the all-time? Well, right now, 25 for Detroit and the New York Yankees of 41. The Tigers did it in 94. And now the Atlanta Braves is 3 back of that all-time consecutive home run mark. Tiger Woods has gone almost a year, 10 months to be exact, since winning on the PGA Tour, and he hoped to end that streak today at the Bell South Classic. He has the lead still in the final round through 13 holes, Tiger with the 2-stroke margin on the field. Remember, last year he won at the Byron Nelson Classic, and it just so happens you can see that next week here on ABC. We begin our coverage with the Indianapolis 500 time trials, then the Byron Nelson Classic, and then the second leg of the Visa Triple Crown Challenge with the Preakness Stakes. That's all next Saturday right here on ABC Sports. Now to pro tennis, the women's final of the Italian Open, a battle of 17-year-olds, Martina Hingis and Venus Williams, meeting again this year. Hingis would win the first set 6-3. Venus Williams would come back to win the second set 6-2. And here in the third and final set, Hingis drawn up to net. You think she's going for the overhead, but no, nothing doing. She wins in 3 for her first Italian Open championship. It is her second straight title on clay. 2 weeks before the French Open, the second Grand Slam of the year, just the 4th loss of the year for Venus Williams. Racing news now. Mika Hakkinen won the pole yesterday for the Spanish Grand Prix, the 5th Formula One race of the year. Today he went looking for his 3rd win of the year at the Spanish Grand Prix. Eddie Irvine and Giancarlo Frisella spin out on lap 30, and both are not happy. Have a exchange of a few words there. Hakkinen kept his cool and takes the checkered flag yet again for the victory, the 4th of his career. As we take a look at the final standings of the Spanish Grand Prix, Hakkinen in first, followed by his teammate David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher placing 3rd, and those same 3 names we see after 5 races atop the season point standings. Hakkinen now with a 13-point advantage in first place. And of course, we have more auto racing coming up for you with the Kart 400. So let's get you back now to Rio de Janeiro. Again, under the yellow flag, it is Alex Zanardi with the the lead.
Thank you, Robin. Welcome back to the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway in Rio de Janeiro, where we are under caution for the 4th time today. Here's a program note. Tonight on ABC at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, a regal presentation of the most popular animated motion picture of all time, The Lion King. Then a network television premiere. John Travolta and Christian Slater star in the action thriller Broken Arrow, all tonight on ABC. On a beautiful day here at Rio, we're about to go back to racing. Quickly down to Gary Gerald.
And a quick update on the race leader, Alex Zanardi, Bob. He was the one who dictated to all those teams that came in and gambled a bit because they were on the edge of the pit window to go the rest of the distance. Once he made his commitment, everybody followed him in. But they were saying we're going to have to go down 1 click on fuel, try to conserve a little bit. But each one of these laps under yellow is greatly helping them ensure that they'll be able to go to the checkered flag without fuel concerns. Incidentally, Adrian Fernandez, now listed in 3rd place, took on fuel only. He liked the set of tires he was on. We'll see how they hold up in the later laps.
Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore, who were running very close, nose to tail, as we prepare for this restart. I think some head games going on out there, Danny.
Possibly. Greg Moore, by the way, only took on fuel, not a set of tires. That's the report from down in the pit lane. So we'll see if he can do that many laps on those tires.
Lap 98 of 133. The order is Zanardi, Moore, Fernandez, Hearn, Herta, Carpentier, Andretti, Unser, Vassar, and Pruitt, your top 10. Then Mark Blundell, Bobby Rahal, Mauricio Gugelmin, J.J. Leto, Alex Barron, Arndt Meyer, and P.J. Jones. On board with Michael Andretti being passed right and left.
It's hard to tell from that shot, but I believe that was Jimmy Vassar.
Jimmy Vassar came by Michael Andretti. And Scott Pruitt is slowing, heading for the pit entrance. Pruitt pitting from 14th. More troubles for Scott Pruitt, who's had a very rough beginning to the year. The team immediately dives into the driver compartment.
Of course, at this stage of the race, that takes him out of any chance of a good result, even if he gets back out on the track.
There is Adrian Fernandez with Richie Hearn just behind him. Keep in mind, Hearn started dead last in this field, 28th. He now runs in 4th place. Jan Bikas updates him.
Yeah, it's been a miraculous performance. Remember, Bob, in the very first practice session, they caught their primary car on fire. They went to the backup. They've had a very difficult weekend with spins in practice. But Richie Hearn now is on the same pit strategy that we saw many others coming in early. Then this yellow flag was perfect timing for the Della Penna team. Richie Hearn's car, they say they have not made any changes on it from the beginning of the race. It's been perfect. Of course, that's a Swift chassis, Firestone tires, and Ford power. Bob?
Well, that's a great boost for that team. Boy, they were shaking their heads on Friday after that car caught fire. Down to 1 car. thousands of miles from home. And all these cars and equipment will go back on the FedEx Jumbos, 3 of them, MD-11s each one, for the long flight back to the United States to get ready for our next race from Madison, Illinois on the Gateway Oval. Now Scott Pruitt has climbed out of his car. He's with Gary Gerald.
Scott Pruitt, you are rapidly becoming the tough luck driver of this series. What happened in this instance?
Well, about halfway through, I started fighting a shifter. It actually moved position, so I wasn't getting complete shifts. I was really having to work on it hard. And finally, it just kept getting worse and worse, and we found out that right there at the end that the whole shift linkage broke, so that was it.
How tough is it to handle this run of bad luck, because you just haven't been able to finish your race since the season opener?
It's been tough. You know, the Vision crew has been doing a good job, and, you know, we're going to keep our heads high. We've got a lot more racing to go, and all we can do is come back here at St. Louis and try and win it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Back on board with Richie Hearn. You heard Scott Pruitt refer to St. Louis. That, of course, is the city just across the Mississippi River from Madison, Illinois, site of the Gateway International Raceway Oval. Right now, Alex Zanardi runs with a full 1 second gap over the second-place car of Greg Moore, then a 1.5 seconds back to Adrian Fernandez, right there at the middle of your screen. With Richie Hearn 0.6 seconds behind Fernandez. Greg Moore in second place, trying to hold on to the fleeing Alex Zanardi, who has dominated this race from the lead thus far. And each lap in the lead earns another $5 for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And if he wins this race, there'll be a $5,000 donation. Together, Team Ganassi and Target produced $100,000 in donations to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Here's our race summary after 102 laps. Alex Zanardi out front. The green flag race average speed. 3 leaders, 3 lead changes, 4 caution flags, and 10 cars out of the race.
I've got to correct you on one thing there, Bob. Greg Moore doesn't want to hold on to Alex Zanardi. He wants to catch him and pass him. He figures he's owed one down here. He had that nice lead. A couple of 96.
No doubt about that. Here's
the
more.
motor blew up, sorry.
His teammate Patrick Carpentier is waving at his crew. There was reportedly smoke from the right front corner of the car. See him shaking his head, talking with the engineering team. Carpentier started from pole at our most recent race at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And that's a taste he wants more of. Meanwhile, there's his teammate Greg Moore running in second place. Moore has led each of the 4 races run coming into this event. Gary Gerald with more on Alex Zanardi.
Just a quick update. Even though they had the yellow, they're still in the fuel conservation mode. They've radioed Zanardi to short shift. Anything to keep the revs down, anything to conserve fuel. The problem for Patrick Carpentier is with the right front. The crew works around the suspension. They've just now dropped it off the jacks. He's going to go back out and try it once again.
Carpentier is back out. Once again, our pictures coming to us from SBT television here in Brazil. As you watch Alex Zanardi trying to make it 3 championships in a row for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. The last and only team to three-peat, if you will, was Penske Racing back in 1981, 82, and 83. 2 championships for Rick Mears and 1 for Al Unser Sr. Now, earlier, when we were under yellow flag, Jan Bikas took the opportunity to talk with Dario Franchitti, who also ran at the front today, but is out of the race now.
Dario Franchitti, our pole sitter. Obviously, this has got to be bitter disappointment for you. Both times that you've been on pole, you've run into trouble, but you were very competitive today.
Yeah, we were very competitive. The car was very good. The guys at Team Cool Green did a fantastic job. We were reasonably happy in warm-up as well as obviously in qualifying. And we took a bit of a gamble on the strategy, and that's our yellow going on behind there. We had more than enough fuel to sit out there and wait for that yellow, but we started to get some problems at the back of the car, and we had to come in to see what it was, and in the end it was terminal.
It was the engine, do you think?
I don't know, I guess so. It sounds pretty much like it.
All right, well, unfortunately, are you going to try not to get the pole in the future?
No, I'm going to keep trying.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Now, Patrick Carpentier has returned to the pits. The team has replaced the right front wheel, and they're sending him back out again. And he obviously is several laps down at this point. Meanwhile, Alex Zanardi continues on his way out front as the laps continue to tick away here in Rio. Stay with us. Sun beginning to grow low here at Rio de Janeiro, the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway, as the Kart Rio 400 continues. Bob Varsha, Danny Sullivan with you. Gary Gerald and Jan Vikas are in the pits, and out front, Alex Zanardi leads Greg Moore. Now Adrian Fernandez, that third car in line, is closing up a bit on Moore.
And what's interesting, Bob, is this is not just a battle here for this race win. These are the first three guys in the championship as well, with Greg Moore leading the championship, but just by 1 point over Alex Zanardi. So this has bigger implications than just the win.
No question about it. We see the numbers on Greg Moore. Behind Fernandez, Richie Hearn still runs 4th, Brian Herta 5th, Jimmy Basser 6th, Alonso Jr. is 7th, Michael Andretti 8th, Bobby Rahal 9th, and J.J. Leto is 10th. The only rookie in the top 10 right now. There is Moore. Twice a winner in 1997 of the FedEx Championship, and the youngest race winner in the history of the series. As I mentioned, the sun getting low over the mountains here in Rio, but the weather is still quite warm. As you can see, bright sunshine on the racetrack. Very high track temperatures here. That, of course, affects tire life. Jan Vikas with an update from the pits.
Well, we heard from Gary Gerald about the leaders being concerned about fuel and saving fuel. Well, on this end of pit road, Richie Hearn, Brian Herta, and Alonso Jr. check with all those teams. They're in the very same situation. They all came in on the same lap, so they're in a similar situation to where they need to be very, very conservative on fuel, and they're not real confident, as far as those guys I mentioned, that they will be able to make it to the end without a splash and go unless they really lean the cars out. Bob?
All right, thank you, Jan. We can add to that. Patrick Carpentier has come back in and climbed from his car. After a long fight with the handling, his race is over. Meanwhile, his teammate appears to be closing up on Alex Zanardi. 20 laps to go. Let's get an update on the leader with Gary Gerald.
And it's still very much a fuel conservation mode for Alex Zanardi. And on the other side, for Greg Moore, he's been given information that in the last few laps, his mileage is vastly improved. That's why I think you're seeing Moore close that gap. Zanardi has to be worried what he sees the blue crew coming up in his mirror, because he still is somewhat iffy on fuel to go the distance. And we all remember what happened to Bobby Rahal with 3 miles to go here 1 year ago.
All right, thank you, Gary. As far as the championship goes, right now, the two men you're looking at, Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore, are tied. Zanardi will win the bonus point for most laps led during the course of a race. So right now they are tied with 51 apiece. And of course they're both thinking about the 20 that come with victory. And of course, as Bobby Rahal proved last year, it's not a matter of first or second place points. If you push the fuel too far, you're going to wind up back around 10th place.
If you're lucky.
Right.
If you're lucky, because we've got an awful competitive field right now.
This is the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway, but the actual name of this racetrack is the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway at the Nelson Piquet International Raceway, which is the name of the entire complex, which includes the International Grand Prix Standard Road Course and both of the track's namesakes. Emerson Fittipaldi and three-time Formula One world champion Nelson Piquet have been all over this racetrack all weekend, delighting the Brazilian fans. Slower traffic coming up, more drawing closer. Jan Bikas has more on Alex Zanardi.
Well, actually, on both the two guys running at the front, Alex Zanardi, of course, has Honda power, and both Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore are in Reynards. But they say that the Honda is not nearly as efficient as the Mercedes, and you can tell so by looking at the radiator ducts between the two cars. The Mercedes is much more closed off than what they have with the Honda. So if the Mercedes is more efficient, Greg Moore should have more fuel here to use at the end.
Jan, that's a good point, but I think at this stage, both Honda and Mercedes have a brand new engine this year, much smaller packages, and the word in the pit lane is that the Mercedes is a little bit behind. Everybody's making big gains, but I think the Honda is supposed to have a little bit of advantage in the power department.
While Jan was speaking, you saw both of the front runners make their way around Hiro Matsushita, and it was close down in turn 1 for Alex Zanardi. J.J. Leto in and out of the pits. He will drop out of the top 10. Well, who do you like from the pit wall? Neil Mickelwright and the Players crew for Jerry Forsyth Racing? Or Tom Anderson and his gang at Target Chip Ganassi Racing? They've been doing pretty well. Pit calls basically helped their drivers win the races at Long Beach for Alex Zanardi, and then at Nazareth, that two-stop strategy that helped Jimmy Vasser into victory lane.
Well, I think you've probably got to look at the guys that have 2 championships, and Alex Zanardi has been out front all day long. He hasn't really been threatened. They've been close, and they've been keeping the pressure on him, but not the way that Greg Moore would like to be right up his gearbox right now, trying to look for a way past him. And the question comes to, how much are they running the fuel? Are they running at 96%, 94%, 92%? Are they saving a little bit for the end where they're going to turn it up? We don't know. Only the guys in the pits and in the cockpit know that.
Just a few car lengths separate them with 15 laps remaining at the CART Rio 400. We'll take a break and return with more. This is going to be another great finish. Saturday live at 4:30 Eastern on ABC Sports. The Visa Triple Crown Challenge continues with the 123rd running of the Preakness Stakes. Second jewel waits at the wire as Kentucky Derby champion Real Quiet races for another win. Don't miss it, Saturday on ABC Sports. Here in Rio de Janeiro, the front 2 cars are now nose to tail. Alex Zanardi in red, Greg Moore in blue. Each man a proven winner. Zanardi, the reigning FedEx Series champion. And there will be 12 laps to go in the CART Rio 400 when they cross the stripe.
Sorry, did you see how sideways he got? He was on the throttle, got it sideways, trying to take a run off of Greg Moore off of that corner.
He nearly wound up in a smoky heap with that yellow car behind him. Here's
look
another
at this. Look at Greg sliding that car off of there. Great car control, and boy, he was going to have a go.
So Greg Moore's heart is no doubt pounding away. Gary Gerald has more on him.
Well, I'm sure that it's pounding from a couple of senses, because we had reported a short time ago that they'd given him the green light on fuel. Well, now that's not the case. Mileage has gone down, and so I just checked in with Neil Mickelwright, and he said, no, we have got to conserve fuel over these last few laps. So this thing is still very much up in the air. We know Zanardi's still in the conservation mode. Now there's a big question mark over that blue car that's right behind him.
Oh, boy, what a finish this is going to be. As you watch Alex Zanardi off to a great start this year, and that's not his custom in his brief career in the FedEx Championship. In his championship year last year, he scored 115 of his 132 points at the end of the season. But he's already got 1 victory this year in the first half. Down to Jan Bikas with Al Unser Jr.
Yes, unfortunately, Al has climbed from his car. Al, what put you out?
It was something with the engine. We don't know exactly what right now. But the Marlboro car was running good, you know. We made a hard charge for it, and, you know, my guys have prepared the car really well today. And what can I say? You know, we gave it our best shot.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
And so the victory drought continues for Al Unser Jr., second among active drivers with 31 to Michael Andretti's 37. But he has not had much luck thus far this season, even with that second place in the Budweiser 500 at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. 10 laps remain in the CART Rio 400 as Alex Zanardi, who, remember, walked over and kissed the top step of the podium during the driver introductions, He is familiar with that position. Leading Greg Moore. Adrian Fernandez in third place is about 1.8 seconds behind this battle. Then it's Brian Herta. Richie Hearn has dropped back to 5th place from 4th. Jimmy Vasser is 6th. Michael Andretti 7th. Bobby Rahal 8th. Mauricio Gugelmin 9th. And Mark Blundell 10th. More on Zanardi from Gary Gerald.
Bob, you mentioned 10 laps to go at 1.8 miles per lap. They're calculating madly with every lap for Zanardi. The word as of just moments ago, they think they can make it now. When he crosses the stripe to take the checkered flag, there should be something just under 1 gallon left. It's going to be that tight, and I guess this is when you pray that the fuel pickup system works 100%.
All right, Gary. There is Hiro Matsushita pitting late in the going. Looks like this will be a splash and go for the Japanese rider as he winds up his 9-year career in the championship. Robbie Gordon will be back in that car. We'll be back with more after a word from our ABC stations.
You're watching Auto Racing on ABC Sports.
Back in Rio de Janeiro, Alex Zanardi leads the kart Rio 400. There will be 6 laps to go next time across the finish line. He goes around P.J. Jones and the All-American Racers Toyota machine. There is Greg Moore in blue just coming into your screen.
That's going to hurt Greg Moore because PJ's in the way. He can't go around him on the outside. He's going to lose a little bit of ground there. Even this draft won't help him a lot. He needed Alex to be held up by PJ so he could close that gap up a little bit.
Timing is everything. Pulled up behind the California driver just at the worst moment on the racetrack.
That's no reflection on PJ. He couldn't do anything. Greg Moore wasn't into the corner enough. He had to run his racing line.
But the gap remains under a second. 5 laps to go next time across the stripe.
Now this helps Greg. This helps Greg right there because that car is slowing up Alex. Alex had the lift coming off. Greg Moore's alongside. Go down the inside.
Oh, no, what do you do if you're Art Meyer in that yellow Lola? He's got the race leader sandwiching him. Oh! And Moore around the outside into 1. Oh, he makes it. Oh, Zanardi's up high. Can he hold it?
No, he cut out on the gray. He couldn't do anything. Greg Moore did an incredible move.
And kudos to Alex Zanardi for keeping that car under control and off the concrete. There will be 4 laps to go next time by. Zanardi suddenly second.
And the championship makes another change. Look at this. What a move by Greg Moore right down the outside. Zanardi tries to go in there. Greg says, 2 really professional moves there by both of those drivers.
And Greg Moore is now in the lead with 4 laps to go, looking for his 3rd career win. Incredibly mature at just 23 years of age, the points leader wants to take a firm grip on this championship.
And Alex has all that ground to make up, and even if he made it up, he still then has to find a way around Greg. Now the question is, of course, fuel. We've all been concerned about that fuel situation.
Here comes Michael Andretti going around Zanardi's teammate Jimmy Vasser for 6th place. And some more precious championship points toward the PPG Cup and the $1 million bonus that goes with it at season end. 3 laps to go now.
Chip Ganassi cannot be the happiest team owner with those last couple of laps, having lost a few spots for both of his drivers.
Greg Moore from Maple Ridge, British Columbia in Canada, a suburb of Vancouver, where we'll be racing later on this season. Started 7th and now runs in 1st place with 2 laps to go next time by.
But the great thing, look, Alex Zanardi is not giving up there. He wants another shot at Greg Moore. And this is going to go right down to the wire.
2 laps to go. Moore and Zanardi. Adrian Fernandez in 3rd is 3 seconds behind this battle. It is up to these 2.
I think these guys are both okay on fuel, but it depends on whether Chip Ganassi says, hey, let's turn that thing up. We want this victory. Go ahead and enrich it up, pour all the fuel you can in it. We're not going to worry about that last gallon.
Zanardi closing up. We have had 4 different winners in the first 4 races of the FedEx Championship for 1998. Will we get a 5th in as many races? We're about to find out. 1.8 miles to go for Greg Moore. On the left.
This is going to be incredible. Because now it's a drag race down to turn 4, and that's the last braking spot. Alex is really going to have to close in under braking here.
Zanardi is renowned for his bonsai moves in the closing moments of races. Is he close enough? There's Mark Blundell moving very slowly, letting the race leaders take the corner first.
He took it in there deep, but I don't think he has enough.
Zanardi back on the throttle, but I don't think he'll do it. Greg Moore, sudden victory, the 3rd of his career. Zanardi 2nd, and the celebration breaks out in the Forsyth Racing pit.